you, Hillary, and thank you, Democracy for America, Palm Beach County. You are my first of what will be a long line, I'm sure, to follow of community endorsements. Now, I was endorsed first by Alan Grayson, who we all know is a and Neil Borofsky, who is also a progressive Democrat, who was the prosecutor over a TARP fund fraud and left in early 2011 that position because he was unhappy with how much fraud he was uncovering and the little response that he saw from the regulators. But when you talk to other groups and newspapers and media, they don't want to hear individual endorsers, they want to hear group endorsers. And I get to fall back on my wonderful DFA PBC and feel like I can have something to contribute. So thank you very much. So again, my name is Lisa Epstein, and I'm running in a very unusual type of primary called an open primary, where any registered voter in the county gets to make a choice in this election, and winner takes all. There are only 2 Democrats running, and there are no other, there's no Republican, and there's no party affiliation. So it's an interesting conundrum for Republicans, because I tell them, you're going to be, if you're voting for a Democrat. And they don't like it, but some of them are actually willing to be open-minded when they realize that their choices have been narrowed for them. So why am I running for office? This is my first, and I'm thinking now maybe my only time that I'm a candidate in my life. And I decided to be a candidate because I want to be able to look at my daughter, who's 5, and tell her that I knew of a terrible, terrible wrong that was occurring in our nation and in our state and in our county. And I had done everything I could as a whistleblower about financial fraud and foreclosure fraud. I had given up my life to break this story with a small group of people who were dedicated to this issue, knew that millions of people across our nation were being harmed, not just homeowners. I'm talking about tenants, and I'm talking about pensioners who were sold, their pensions were sold mortgage bond investments on fake ratings. I'm talking about our communities that our revenue and our public services are based on property values. I'm talking about our property rights, and I'm talking about America's land records that have been in existence for over 300 years. And when the story finally broke, and there was a lot of activity, congressional hearings, and the media came calling, and there was consent orders by the banking regulators, and billions of dollars in fines paid, no admission of wrongdoing, but no real, meaningful, and sustainable help for the everyday American family. So Albert Einstein said something very important that I've really tried to live my life by, and that is there is evil in the world, not because of those people who are evil, but because of the people that don't do anything about it. And I believe this is an evil. Food, water, and shelter are essential needs for living beings, and I became a nurse because I wanted to help people. And shelter is being taken under fraudulent means from millions of my country people, and I'm going to do the next step. So the next step for me was running for office. And I thought I must be wrong. That can't be the next step. There has to be some other next step. There has to be. And I searched and I prayed and I thought, what is the real next step? Because what looks to be the next step, I cannot do that. I'm not public enough. I'm not brave enough. I'm not courageous enough. I don't know enough about the process. And it's very intimidating. But events unfolded that this appeared to be the next step, and so I took it. It is not easy to be a regular, everyday citizen and file papers to be a candidate. There's a lot to learn from the election laws. There's a lot to learn about party politics. There's a lot to learn where you belong as a relatively unknown, unfunded, and somewhat unsupported candidate. And I want to thank again DFA PBC, because you had belief and faith and hope that at the very least I want to be an elected official, and I'm running to be an elected official because I want to represent people and put their concerns first. No matter what, put their concerns first. There's not much that any one elected official, from the president on down, can do in face of this massive financial fraud that totally crashed our economy. Not much. But together, if we each, as elected officials, each of us, take whatever we can within the duties and functions of those jobs and really make a difference. Hold the financial services institutions accountable. You know, and it's not just foreclosure fraud that I'm talking about. Have any of you heard of the LIBOR scandal that's breaking in the news now? Have any of you heard of MF Global? And now there's a new one, PG Fund, that out of Iowa, another one that's crashing. And you know, I've done a lot of studying of these investor reports that are filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission, and more is coming. More is coming. What we're seeing is only the tip of the iceberg, and there will be some darker days ahead. We need people in the position that want to understand this and are willing to stand up to these interests and say, whatever I can do, and it may not be much, but what I can do, I will do. I will do. Thank you very much. Again, I'm Lisa Epstein, and I'm running on August 14th primary. And well, people can register to vote. If you know people that aren't registered, they can register up to the 16th, right? And then election day is August 14th. And then after that, no matter what happens, then I can volunteer for my other favorite candidates because my race will be over. So thank you very much.